Chapter 1197. Everyone nodded. So that was how it was. As for the geniuses of the divine wilderness continent, they were secretly shocked. There were actually a total of 42 continents around the divine wilderness continent. The vast divine wilderness continent was actually just one of them. It was truly shocking. It was said that there were many such continents in the entire Yuan realm. It was simply impossible to count. No one knew how big the Yuan realm was. Alright, I'll tell you all this first. As for the details of the celestial sect's selection of disciples, I'll tell you all when the 9 continents gather. Now, we need to fly into the southern divine palace. After the black-robed man finished speaking, he stepped out and flew out of the sea-crossing ship. Mu Feng, Yi Chuan, and some other people from the divine wilderness continent, including Lu Ming and the rest, flew out to look at the sea-crossing ship. Then, the sea-crossing ship turned around and flew in another direction. They stepped into the air and flew towards the southern divine palace. The ancient city in front of them belonged to the southern divine palace. It was very vast and there were countless people living inside. When the powerhouses guarding the ancient city saw the black-robed man, they bowed respectfully. They entered the ancient city without any obstructions. The ancient city was really huge. It was like a small world inside with mountains and lakes. Soon, everyone landed on a square. Wait here for a while. Soon, someone will arrange your accommodations, the black-robed man said, then rose into the air and disappeared. Beside him, Mu Feng's face was cold. He took out a voice transmission jade talisman and sent a message. Then, a cold smile appeared on his face. Soon, 2 middle-aged burly men flew over and landed in front of Lu Ming and the rest. You must be the prodigies from the divine wilderness continent. Come with us. We'll arrange your accommodations. After saying that, they rose into the air. Lu Ming and the rest followed. Not far from the square, there were 2 mountain peaks. The 2 mountain peaks were connected. There were 2 peaks, one tall and one short. They were like brothers. From afar, one could see that there were courtyards built on both mountain peaks. The 2 burly men led them and flew towards the tall mountain peak. Soon, they landed on the mountain peak. The mountain peak was filled with rich spiritual qi and origin qi. Ancient trees towered into the sky, and there were spiritual beasts running around. The environment was very good. Some courtyards were built in the forest. This mountain is called the General's Peak, and that short mountain is called the Soldier's Peak. It's as if the soldiers are paying their respects to the general. A muscular man casually introduced. Lu Ming and the others looked over. Indeed, that short mountain peak was like a soldier greeting a general. From their side, they could overlook the Soldier Peak. You can choose any courtyard to stay in here. Alright, we've brought you the location. Let's go. A brawny man said. Then, the 2 brawny men left the place. My hair, this little monk will choose this courtyard. Junior sister Wu Yue, do you want to stay with me? Monk Wu Liang chanted the name of Buddha and walked towards a courtyard. Before he left, he glanced at Moonless and asked. Moonless ignored Monk Wu Liang and found another courtyard to enter. There were many courtyards here, and they could choose as they pleased. Lu Ming and Xie Nianqing strolled around for a while. They chose a courtyard near the cliff and walked in. The courtyard was elegant, and there were several rooms that could accommodate several people. Moreover, the environment was elegant, so the 2 of them were quite satisfied. Time passed quickly, and it had been 3 days since Lu Ming and the others arrived at Southern God Palace. On this day, another spaceship arrived outside the ancient city. A group of people flew out of it. Is this the Southern God Palace of the Godly Ruins continent? Among the crowd, there were more than a dozen youths. Their eyes lit up as they looked at the ancient city in front of them excitedly. After that, they flew into the ancient city like Lu Ming and the others and landed on the square. Soon, a young man and a brawny man flew over. That young man was Mu Feng. Friends from the Godly Crocodile continent, your accommodations have been arranged. Follow us. Mu Feng said. The Sky Prides of the Godly Crocodile continent nodded. There were a total of 15 of them. They followed Mu Feng and the brawny man and flew in a direction. They were heading towards the direction where Lu Ming and the others were staying. However, they did not arrive at the General's Peak, but at the Soldier's Peak. They landed on the Soldier's Peak. Brother Mu, I think the scenery on that peak is better. Can we stay on that peak? A young man from the godly crocodile continent looked up at the General's Peak and asked. Brother Crocodile, I'm sorry. That peak is already occupied by a continent. Mu Feng said with a smile. Occupied by a continent. Which continent? Not only that young man, but the other young men from the godly crocodile continent were also shocked. The Soldier's Peak was obviously shorter than the General's Peak. They had to look up and it made them uncomfortable. It's the people from the godly wilderness continent. The peak where the people from the godly wilderness continent live is called the General's Peak. This peak is called the Soldier's Peak, Mu Feng explained. General's Peak. Soldier's Peak. Ridiculous. Why should the people from the godly wilderness continent live on the General's Peak and we live on the Soldier's Peak? What right does the godly wilderness continent have to live on the General's Peak? I've heard of the godly wilderness continent. Legend has it that in ancient times, the godly wilderness continent was ranked far behind our godly crocodile continent. What right do they have to live there? Mu Feng's words made the sky prides of the godly crocodile continent furious. The General's Peak and the Soldier's Peak were obvious. Didn't that mean that the godly crocodile continent were the soldiers and the godly wilderness continent were the generals? How preposterous. Everyone, this is the arrangement of the Elder of Southern God Palace. Maybe the Elder thinks that the sky prides from the godly wilderness continent are stronger. However, in Southern God Palace, everything is based on strength. Those who are stronger will naturally be able to live in a better place. Alright, everyone, you can stay here. I'll take my leave first. After Mu Feng finished speaking, he turned and flew away with the middle-aged man. Mu Feng's lips curled into a smug smile. Godly wilderness continent, aren't you very powerful? Then I'll let you have a taste of the power of the godly crocodile continent's sky prides. Mu Feng sneered. That's right. Mu Feng had arranged the accommodations through his connections. It wasn't too difficult to arrange the accommodations. He had purposely arranged for the godly wilderness continent to live on the General's Peak and the godly crocodile continent, a relatively strong continent, to live on the Soldier's Peak. It was to provoke the conflict between the two continents. If the godly wilderness continent didn't let him off, he wouldn't let them off either. After Mu Feng left, the sky prides of the godly crocodile continent shouted. Just now, Mu Feng said that in Southern God Palace, everything is based on strength. How dare the godly wilderness continent live on top of our godly crocodile continent? What right do they have? Since it's based on strength, then get the people from the godly wilderness continent down here. The General's Peak is ours. Who's going to attack first? I'll go. I alone am enough to deal with the godly wilderness continent. Chapter 1198. For the past 3 days, Lu Ming had been cultivating in seclusion, comprehending the will of heaven and earth and comprehending martial skills. The cultivation environment of the Divine Ruins continent was indeed better than the Divine Wilderness continent. He felt that it was easier to cultivate here than on the Divine Wilderness continent. Suddenly, a violent roar came from outside. Lu Ming opened his eyes in surprise. There were people fighting outside, but who was fighting here? Lu Ming got up, opened the door, and walked out. When he saw Xian Yanqing walking out of his room, both of them were surprised. When they walked out of the courtyard, they saw that the sky not far away was filled with dazzling light and energy. Some people were watching from the sky. Monk Wuliang, Yang Potian, Underworld Child, Tuoba Shi, and the others were all there. On the other side, there were more than a dozen unknown young men. Lu Ming looked at the battlefield. It was Shi Du fighting with a young man in scaled armor. At this moment, Shi Du had already transformed into his original form. He was a majestic golden lion. His entire body was dazzling with golden flames dancing around him. Shi Du was stronger than when he was in the holy city. His cultivation had also broken through to the 3rd level of the spirit god realm. With a long roar, heaven and earth shook, and the mountains trembled. However, Shadu was completely at a disadvantage at this moment. The young man in scaled armor was obviously much stronger than Shadu. His punches made Shadu tumble in the air. What a majestic lion. Not bad, quite mighty. What do you think? Be my mount in the future and follow me to eat and drink well, the young man in scaled armor mocked, making Shadu even more furious. His roar shook the sky. Swoosh, swoosh. In the distance, a figure flashed and flew towards them. Obviously, they were alarmed by the battle here. Many of them were young men. Lu Ming guessed that they might be geniuses from other continents or Southern God Palace's own geniuses. Hehe, they're really fighting. Mu Feng sneered in the crowd. He hadn't gone far when he heard the commotion and rushed back to watch the show. Which two continents are these geniuses from? Someone asked. The Divine Wilderness Continent and the Divine Crocodile Continent. Mu Feng replied. Oh, so it's these two continents. In ancient times, the Divine Alligator Continent's ranking has always been very high. At its peak, it even made it into the top 10. On the other hand, the Divine Wilderness Continent's ranking has always been below average. I wonder how it is now. I heard that the Divine Crocodile Continent is very powerful. Although they might not be able to enter the top 10, they are not too weak. Most of the geniuses of the Divine Barren Continent are no match for them. That lion of the Divine Wilderness Continent is about to be defeated. The surrounding onlookers were discussing animatedly. Tuobasha, what happened? Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing came to Tuobasha's side and asked. General Lu, they are from the godly Crocodile Continent. Originally, they were assigned to the Soldier's Peak. Now, they want to drive us to the Soldier's Peak. They are living in the General's Peak, Tuobasha explained. With just one sentence, Lu Ming understood. The General Peak was high and mighty, overlooking the Soldier Peak. The sky prides of the godly Crocodile Continent were proud and arrogant. How could they be looked down upon by the sky prides of other continents? Boom! In the sky, Shado roared madly. However, it was useless. The difference in their combat strength was too great. Shado's cultivation was at the 3rd level of the Spirit God realm. However, his opponent's cultivation was at the peak of the 4th level of the Spirit God realm. The difference was too great. Moreover, without a doubt, those who were able to participate in the Heavenly God Sect selection must have awakened a 9th level divine bloodline. Bam! After exchanging a few more blows, Shado spat out a mouthful of blood and fell heavily on the ground of the General's Peak. You want to participate in the Yuanlu sect selection with such strength? You are overestimating yourself. The scaled youth stood in the sky and looked down at Shado. Shado roared. He was extremely sullen. However, he was not as strong as his opponent. The other people of the Divine Wilderness Continent did not look too good either. After all, they were all from the Divine Wilderness Continent. No matter what kind of conflicts they had on the Divine Wilderness Continent, they were all on the same side in the Divine Ruins Continent. The scaled youth's eyes were cold and arrogant. He continued to stare at Shado and said, What do you think? Be my mount. In your dreams. Shado roared. Then I will beat you until you become my mount. Haha, there is also a peacock with the 5 elements peacock bloodline. It is not bad. I will take it as my mount too. This trip is not bad. After saying that, the scaled youth glanced at Kong Lin and a ferocious look flashed across his eyes. Then, he continued to attack Shado. Shado, I will help you. Kong Lin's expression was unsightly. He let out a long cry and turned into a 5-colored peacock. He pounced at the scaled youth. Shado saw the opportunity and cooperated with Kong Lin. The two of them fought against the scaled youth. Hee, what's the use of working together? The scaled youth sneered. A huge crocodile appeared above his head. 9 golden chakras shone around the crocodile. Divine Beast, Overlord Crocodile. The scaled youth performed bloodline fusion and turned into a huge Overlord Crocodile. You will be defeated. The Overlord Crocodile roared. Its tail swept out like a divine whip and hit Kong Lin. The 5 elements divine light on Kong Lin's body was shattered. He wailed and 5 colored feathers flew. His body was sent flying. At the same time, the Overlord Crocodile's palm hit Shadow and sent him flying. Shadow and Kong Lin were no match for the scaled youth. Trash. You can barely be my mounts. How dare you resist? The Overlord Crocodile glanced at them and said disdainfully. Then, it looked at Lu Ming, Underworld Child, Young Potian, and the rest. I will say it again. The Divine Crocodile Continent wants General Peak. If you know what's good for you, get lost. Otherwise, I will fight you one by one. How arrogant. Tuoba Sha licked his lips. He wanted to fight, but his cultivation had not broken through to the 4th level spirit god realm. He knew that he was no match for the scaled youth. My hair. Heartless monk chanted Buddha's name and squinted his eyes. However, it was obvious that no one would leave this place easily. You don't want to get lost? Then I will fight you one by one. An ominous glint flashed in the giant crocodile's eyes as it swept its gaze over the crowd. In the end, it landed on the Underworld Child and said, "The next one is you. Just now, you revealed killing intent towards me. Don't think I didn't sense it." Kneel. The Overlord Crocodile was very domineering. As soon as it finished speaking, a beam of light shot out from its eyes and blasted towards Underworld Child. Underworld Child's eyes turned cold. Endless underworld chi erupted. Within the underworld chi, there were waves of ghostly wails and wolf howls. It was extremely horrifying. A saber appeared in his hand. It was a black curved saber. Evil spirits appeared on it. They were extremely lifelike, as if they were about to crawl out. Whoosh. Underworld Child held the curved saber in his hand and slashed out, shattering the beam of light shot out by the Overlord Crocodile. At the same time, Underworld Child rose into the air and stood in front of the Overlord Crocodile. A powerful aura erupted. 4th level spirit god realm. Obviously, Underworld Child had also made a breakthrough during this period and stepped into the 4th level spirit god realm. If you want to fight, I will accompany you. A cold voice came from Underworld Child's mouth. 4th level spirit god realm. The Divine Wilderness Continent finally has a decent figure. However, you have just broken through to the 4th level spirit god realm. You want to fight me? You are still far from it. Chapter 1199. Bang, bang, bang. The Emperor Crocodile's 4 limbs stepped into the air, releasing rumbling sounds as it crawled towards Underworld Child. Its entire body's scales shone, and it opened its mouth to roar, appearing extremely sinister. Whoosh! A huge claw slammed down at the Underworld Child. The nether energy around the Underworld Child grew thicker as the bloodline of the Grim Reaper appeared above his head. He didn't hide anything. Facing such a powerful enemy, Underworld Child used his bloodline fusion to transform into a death god. The death god's scythe swung towards the giant crocodile. Clang! The death god's scythe struck the Overlord Crocodile's claws, emitting the sound of metal clashing. Sparks flew in all directions. The death god transformed from the Underworld Child stepped on the void and retreated continuously. However, the giant crocodile's body trembled, and it didn't immediately give chase. So it can attack the soul directly. Unfortunately, it's not powerful enough to do anything to me. Kill. The Overlord Crocodile was a bit surprised. Its body began to glow, and it let out a furious roar as it charged toward the Underworld Child. Underworld Child's expression changed drastically. The Grim Reaper's body began to split apart. In the end, it turned into 12 Grim Reapers and surrounded the giant crocodile. The Netherchild's 12 Citadel battle formation. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 12 Death God avatars and 12 Death God scythes slashed at the giant crocodile. Petty tricks. The great Emperor Crocodile's voice rang out. Its tail swept out, shattering space. 7 or 8 Death Gods were sent flying. The remaining Death Gods were also sent flying by the Overlord Crocodile's claws. As for the Overlord Crocodile, its body merely trembled a few times, and light spread out as if it was blocking the Death God's soul attacks. Then, as if nothing had happened, he continued to attack the Nether Child. Bang! With a flick of his tail, a Death God exploded. Next, the Overlord Crocodile opened its mouth and spat out a beam of light, destroying a Death God. In the end, The underworld child was no match for his opponent. After exchanging over 10 moves, he was completely suppressed. His 12 clones were being defeated one after another. Soon after, of the 12 death gods, only one was left. It was grabbed by the great crocodile's 2 claws and directly ripped apart. Underworld child's true body appeared, and he frantically retreated while coughing out large mouthfuls of blood. Underworld child was defeated, similarly not a match. He can't even withstand a single blow. It looks like the strongest in the divine wilderness is only at this level. The giant crocodile's eyes swept over Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing's expressions didn't change, but the rest of the people didn't look too good. Even Underworld Child had been defeated. The remaining ones, such as Monk Wuliang and Yang Potian, were not confident at all. Their combat strength might not be comparable to Underworld Child's. Looks like the divine wilderness continent is bound to lose. There aren't any outstanding geniuses. That's right. I wonder what the rank of the person who did it is in the divine crocodile continent. Peak LV4 Spirit God. I think his ranking in the godly crocodile continent wouldn't be low. The godly crocodile continent isn't stupid. Of course, they will send out expert. The surrounding people were discussing. Who's going to attack next? The giant crocodile continued to speak. It seemed like it really wanted to fight them one by one. Heartless Monk, Yang Potian, and the others' expressions changed, but they didn't say anything. What a bunch of trash. How about this, all of you come at me together, and I'll take care of all of you together. I'll let all of you roll off the general's peak willingly. The Emperor Crocodile opened its mouth, extremely arrogant. It actually wanted the people of the divine desolate continent to attack together. Damn it. Tar-Ba gritted his teeth and a murderous glint appeared in his eyes. If it weren't for the fact that he knew he couldn't win, he would have charged forward. What's with that look? Are you not convinced? Then I'll start with you. The Emperor Crocodile glanced at Tar-Ba and a cold glint flashed across its eyes. A tail covered with scales whipped towards Tar-Ba. Kai Kai, as the tail whipped past, the space shattered like paper. The tail carried a terrifying spatial storm as it whipped towards Tar-Ba. Tar-Ba's expression changed drastically. His cultivation was only at the peak LV3 Spirit God realm, which was one level lower than his opponent. He was no match for his opponent at all. He gritted his teeth and was about to use his full strength to resist the attack when a voice sounded. Let me do it. Bang! Lu Ming stepped forward and appeared in front of Tar-Ba. The dragon force in his body roared and his true yuan boiled. Lu Ming stretched out his hand and grabbed the Emperor Crocodile's tail. How dare you grab my tail with your bare hands? Break your arms. The Emperor Crocodile's eyes revealed a trace of malevolence. However, in the next moment, its eyes flashed with astonishment. Its tail whipped heavily on Lu Ming's palm. However, Lu Ming's palm did not move an inch and neither did his body. Instead, its tail was grabbed by Lu Ming. Ha! Lu Ming exhaled and grabbed the Emperor Crocodile's tail with both hands. It was as if he was swinging a big hammer. He swung the Emperor Crocodile's huge body up and smashed it heavily towards the mountain peak. Bang! The Emperor Crocodile's huge body smashed heavily on General Peak, causing the entire mountain to shake violently. Countless inscriptions appeared on the surface of General Peak and neutralized the terrifying force. If it was not for the protection of the inscription array, the entire General Peak would have exploded and not a single stone would be left. The remaining people from the divine crocodile continent were stunned. The onlookers in the distance were also stunned. They had never expected that there would be a fierce person in the divine wilderness continent who could swing the Emperor Crocodile's huge body like a big hammer. It's not over yet. It's coming again, someone shouted. Sure enough, Lu Ming was not done yet. He swung the Emperor Crocodile's body and smashed it down again. Kid, let go of me. The Emperor Crocodile roared and struggled violently. However, it was useless. At that moment, Lu Ming had unleashed 8 dragons. His divine strength was invincible and the Emperor Crocodile could not struggle at all. Boom! The Emperor Crocodile's huge body smashed down again, causing the mountain to shake non-stop. Boom! Boom. Boom. Following that, loud explosions could be heard from the mountain peak. The emperor crocodile was repeatedly smashed on the mountain peak and let out a blood-curdling scream. The sky prides of the divine wilderness continent, such as the underworld child and young Potian, gasped. Especially Lion Do, who broke out in cold sweat. Lu Ming was getting stronger and stronger. How violent! They silently mourned for the emperor crocodile. However, they felt extremely comfortable in their hearts. Wasn't the emperor crocodile arrogant? Now, it's going to be a dead dog. Boom. After being smashed more than 10 times, the emperor crocodile could no longer maintain its bloodline fusion state and reverted back to its human form. Lu Ming kicked the emperor crocodile's face and sent it flying far away. A young man from the divine crocodile continent flew out and caught the emperor crocodile. Otherwise, no one knew where the emperor crocodile would have flown to. I didn't expect the divine wilderness continent to have such an expert. I really didn't expect it. Interesting. It's the divine crocodile continent's turn to have a headache, some people were discussing in the distance. To them, no matter which side won, it had nothing to do with them. They were just there to watch the show. HMPH. That kid does have some strength. However, the real experts of the divine crocodile continent have not appeared yet. Mu Feng snorted and said. Lu Ming's combat strength was within his expectations. Since Lu Ming could easily defeat him, it was normal for him to defeat a peak level 4 spirit god from the divine crocodile continent. Chapter 1200. As far as I know, there are at least 2 or 3 level 5 spiritual gods in the divine crocodile continent. Mu Feng explained with a smirk. There are at least 2 or 3 level 5 spiritual gods. Someone sucked in a cold breath. That's right. This is just the beginning. Mu Feng sneered as the sharpness in his eyes intensified. A level 5 spiritual god was much stronger than a level 4 spiritual god. At that moment, the elites of the divine crocodile continent had ugly looks on their faces. Among them, a burly young man in golden armor stepped out. His eyes were golden as he stared at Lu Ming, releasing a powerful aura. I didn't expect that there would be a decent expert in the divine region. Not bad. The young man in golden armor said coldly. If you want to fight, then do it. Cut the crap. Lu Ming said flatly. Ha ha ha, you're arrogant. But, the young man in golden armor started to laugh, but his eyes were cold. His eyes swept past Lu Ming and landed on a courtyard in the forest. Pretending to be calm in front of the elites of the divine crocodile continent makes me uncomfortable. So, I'll take care of this guy first, then I'll take care of you. Having said that, the young man in golden armor stretched out his hand and grabbed at the air. A giant golden claw formed above the courtyard and grabbed at it. His attacking Long Chen. Lu Ming raised his eyebrows and smirked. He had already noticed that Long Chen was living in the courtyard. From the very beginning, Long Chen had not appeared. He had only been cultivating in that courtyard. Obviously, the young man in golden armor had also noticed that Long Chen was cultivating in the courtyard. He was unhappy and wanted to take down Long Chen before dealing with Lu Ming. Looks like I don't have to do anything, Lu Ming muttered as he retreated to Xian Yanqing's side. He was happy to be free. Get lost. When the giant golden claw was about to grab Long Chen, a cold shout came from the courtyard. A fist radiance flew out and smashed the giant golden claw. Swoosh. A figure stepped out from the courtyard and appeared in the air. It was Long Chen. Were you the one who attacked? Long Chen stared at the golden-armored youth. Not bad, I didn't expect your cultivation base to be. Whoosh. Before the golden-armored young man could finish his sentence, Long Chen's figure had already approached the golden-armored young man at an extremely fast speed. Long Chen threw a punch at him. The pressure of this punch caused the golden-armored young man's expression to change drastically. He hurriedly punched out as well. When the two fists collided, the golden-armored young man's face immediately turned the color of pig liver. With a loud bang, his body was sent flying backward. His arm was trembling non-stop, and he nearly spat out a mouthful of blood. How dare you sneak attack me? Despicable. The young man in golden armor roared, and a giant crocodile appeared above his head. Unlike the previous person, this giant crocodile was golden, as if it was made of gold. Both of them possessed a 9th-rank divine bloodline. The golden-armored man unleashed bloodline fusion, and his aura surged violently. This person's cultivation was at the mid-5th level of the spirit god realm, and he was slightly stronger than the scaled young man from before. The golden-armored youth transformed into a giant crocodile and charged towards Long Chen. Boom! Long Chen's aura skyrocketed, and his arms became thicker. They were twice as thick as before. That's dragon scales. Lu Ming's eyes flickered. He saw scales that looked like dragon scales on Long Chen's thick arms. Could it be that Long Chen's bloodline is a type of true dragon? Lu Ming guessed. Boom! Boom! Long Chen continuously punched out with both hands. The first punch sent the golden-armored young man's tail flying. The second punch landed on the giant crocodile's head. With a loud bang, the giant crocodile's body was sent flying backward. Whoosh! Long Chen took a step forward and closed in on the giant crocodile. He raised his huge fists and continuously punched down. The fist energy broke through everything, and the giant crocodile couldn't resist. The golden-armored young man let out a miserable cry. Damn, another monster has appeared in the divine wilderness continent. He's so strong that even a 5th-level spirit god realm expert isn't his match. It seems like this person is the strongest person in the divine wilderness continent. Long Chen's battle strength made the onlookers tremble. Mu Feng's face was cold as he snorted. However, there was shock in his eyes. Long Chen was someone that he had to deal with. However, Long Chen's battle strength had exceeded his expectations. Bam! Bam! After a few punches, the golden-armored young man wailed in pain. Stop! A young man from the divine crocodile continent shouted as a powerful aura erupted from his body. Nonsense, if you want to fight, then fight together. Don't disturb my cultivation, Long Chen scolded. Damn it, he's too arrogant. He's too arrogant. I suggest that we fight together to suppress this person. That's right, let's fight together. Long Chen's disdainful attitude made the young men from the divine crocodile continent roar in anger. They were all peerless geniuses and stood at the peak of the divine crocodile continent. Even the sovereigns didn't dare to look down on them. When had they ever been looked down upon? All of them roared and wanted to fight together. Boom! Boom! At least 7 or 8 young men from the divine crocodile continent had bloodlines above their heads. All of them had level 9 divine grade bloodlines and were giant crocodiles. Most of the people from the divine crocodile continent had inherited the bloodlines of the ancient divine crocodile, overlord crocodile and giant crocodile. A total of 7 young men had merged their bloodlines and turned into giant crocodiles. 2 of them had powerful auras. One is a late level 5 spiritual god and the other is a peak level 5 spiritual god. Lu Ming's eyes flickered as he saw the cultivation of the young men from the divine crocodile continent. Other than them, the rest were level 4 spiritual gods. As for those with lower cultivation, they didn't fight. The 7 experts turned into giant crocodiles and pounced towards Long Chen. This time, they should be able to force Long Chen to show his strength. The other young men from the divine region, including Lu Ming, were curious as they wanted to see Long Chen's true strength. Long Chen's eyes revealed a rare trace of fighting spirit. Roar! An earth-shattering roar resounded as a giant creature appeared above Long Chen's head. It was a giant elephant that was even bigger than a mountain. However, this giant elephant was different from an ordinary elephant as it was covered with scales like a dragon's armor. There were also 9 golden chakras around the giant elephant. However, the aura emitted by the giant elephant was much stronger than the aura emitted by other level 9 god-level bloodlines. This is the immemorial dragonesque elephant. Someone has awakened the bloodline of the immemorial dragonesque elephant. A surprised voice rang in Lu Ming's ears. It was Dandan. Dandan seemed to have sensed the aura of Long Chen's bloodline as he appeared from the mountain river diagram. Immemorial dragonesque elephant. Is it a hybrid of a true dragon and a divine elephant? Lu Ming was stunned. No, the immemorial dragonesque elephant is a separate race that has nothing to do with the true dragon. It is even stronger than the true dragon because it is as famous as the 9 dragons. It is one of the top 10 battle beasts with me, Dandan explained. The immemorial dragonesque elephant is one of the top 10 battle beast. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. Chapter 1201. The strength of the bloodlines of the top 10 beasts could be seen from the 9 dragons bloodline. The 9 dragons bloodline was only a level 8 divine grade bloodline, but it contained 8 dragon forces. Coupled with the devouring power, its combat strength was already shocking. Moreover, the 9 dragons bloodline's strongest point was its devouring power. It could refine all kinds of energy, even wills, to quickly increase one's cultivation and upgrade one's bloodline. The 9 dragons bloodline played an important role in Lu Ming's current achievements. One could imagine how terrifying the primordial dragonesque elephant bloodline, which was on par with the 9 dragons bloodline, was. The immemorial dragonesque elephant is famous for its combat strength among the top 10 beasts. It's so powerful that it can penetrate the world and suppress everything. It's amazing that this guy could awaken the immemorial dragonesque elephant bloodline, Dandan exclaimed. Roar. The dragonesque elephant roared and its aura spread out, causing the divine crocodile continent sky prides to turn pale. Boom. Long Chen transformed into a dragonesque elephant and stepped out, stomping heavily on the golden-armored youth's giant crocodile body. The golden giant crocodile exploded and the golden-armored youth's figure appeared. He was bleeding profusely and blood gushed out of his mouth as he fell to the ground. Apparently, Long Chen had shown mercy and did not kill him. However, he was still severely injured. Roar. Then, the immemorial dragonesque elephant roared and swept its trunk. 3 level 4 spirit god Sky Pride's bloodlines collapsed and their bodies were sent flying as they screamed in pain. Let's work together. The strongest person in the divine crocodile continent was a level 5 spirit god. He shouted and whipped his tail at the immemorial dragonesque elephant. Bang! Bang! The immemorial dragonesque elephant was actually very agile. It took 2 steps forward, and a terrifying energy burst out, blocking the opponent. At the same time, its 2 tusks glowed, and 2 rays of light shot out like 2 heavenly blades, flying out. A few more heaven's favorites had their blood and bodies destroyed, and they were sent flying away while screaming in pain. Only 2 level 5 spirit god sky prides from the divine crocodile continent were left in the sky. The immemorial dragonesque elephant stepped out, causing the sky to shake. Although the 2 sky prides from the divine crocodile continent tried their best, they could not withstand it and were completely crushed. In just a few moves, the 2 of them screamed in pain. Their bloodline power dissipated and they reverted to their human forms, and blood gushed out of their mouths as they looked at the dragonesque elephant in the sky in fear. Whoosh! The Archean dragonesque elephant shrunk and Long Chen's body reappeared. He glanced at the geniuses of the godly crocodile continent and said coldly, "Get lost." The sky prides of the divine crocodile continent had ugly expressions on their faces. However, they did not dare to stay any longer. They brought those injured people and retreated back to the Soldier's Peak. So powerful. Who is this person? He's so powerful that even a peerless genius at the 5th level of the spirit god realm couldn't withstand a single blow. He's indeed too strong. To think that a mere divine wilderness continent would have such a person. Such fighting strength can only be found in the top 10 continent. How shocking. We have another strong opponent in the heavenly god sect selection of disciples this time. In the distance, the geniuses from the other continents and the godly ruins continent looked at Long Chen with solemn expressions. Damn it, how can this person be so strong? Mu Feng gritted his teeth and his face turned ugly. Initially, he wanted the people of the divine crocodile continent to torture the divine wilderness continent. Unexpectedly, the result was the complete opposite. Long Chen's expression was calm. He didn't say a word and directly returned to his courtyard to continue cultivating. What a weirdo. Lu Ming shook his head and smiled. How is it? Are you confident? Xian Yanqing blinked his big eyes and looked at Lu Ming. What he meant was Lu Ming confident in defeating Long Chen? The peak of the 5th level of the spirit god realm and the ancient dragonesque elephant bloodline is indeed abnormally strong. However, When have I ever lost in a battle of the same level? Lu Ming smiled confidently. He had a rough idea of Long Chen's strength. Shameless. Xian Yanqing curled his lips, but there was a smile on his face. The two chatted as they returned to their courtyard and continued cultivating. There were less than 3 months before the Heavenly God Sect selection. Everyone wanted to seize the time to cultivate and increase their strength. The stronger they were, the higher their chances of being selected. Time passed quickly and half a month had passed. Lu Ming cultivated diligently every day and made great progress. His various intents had improved by quite a bit. However, his earth intent was still at the peak of the 4th level for the time being and had yet to reach the 4th level of the greater mastery. On the other hand, Lu Ming had actually reached the 8th step of the 9 dragons' heaven stomping steps. The 8th step was equivalent to the prowess of a superior grade divine level martial technique. Given Lu Ming's current cultivation level, he could not unleash its full prowess. However, once he executed it, its prowess would undoubtedly be stronger and Lu Ming's combat prowess would be enhanced. On this day, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing went out together. It had been more than half a month since they came to the southern divine palace in the Godly Ruins continent. The two of them planned to walk around and experience the local customs of the Godly Ruins continent. Then, they would see if there were any treasures, spiritual herbs, or materials that they could buy. Especially the materials for the Nirvana pill. Some of them were already very difficult to find in the Godly Ruins continent. However, that might not be the case in the Godly Ruins continent. Perhaps, they could find some. The two of them flew out of the General's Peak and toward a bustling street. Brother Lu, Miss Xie, what a coincidence. A voice came from the side. Brother Yi. Lu Ming turned and saw that it was Yi Chuan. Are the two of you planning to go shopping? Yi Chuan asked. That's right. We've been here for more than half a month and we haven't gone shopping. Lu Ming said with a smile. Do the two of you have a place to go? Yi Chuan asked. No, we're just looking around to see if we can buy some materials and spiritual herbs. Lu Ming said. If it's ordinary spiritual herbs and materials, you can find them in the ordinary market. If it's some rare materials and spiritual herbs, it's hard to find them in the ordinary market. I know a place where you can find some very rare materials and spiritual herbs. Yi Chuan said. Oh, where is it? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Treasure Exchange Pavilion. Treasure Exchange Pavilion? Lu Ming was puzzled. As the name suggests, the Treasure Exchange Pavilion is a place where you can exchange for treasures. As long as you enter, you can take out treasures that you don't need and exchange them for treasures that you need. If someone needs them, they will naturally take them out to exchange. That way, you can get some rare treasures. Yi Chuan explained. There's such a place. Let's go take a look. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Haha, I was going to the Treasure Exchange Pavilion anyway. Let me lead the way, Yi Chuan said straightforwardly. Yi Chuan led the way and the three of them landed on a street. They walked along the street and took a detour before arriving in front of a huge building. It was a pavilion that was incomparably spacious and occupied a large area. It had 7 floors and towered into the sky. It stood out among the other buildings. Chapter 1202. The Treasure Exchange Tower used to be a place for the older generation of experts to exchange for treasures. But recently, prodigies from all over the continent have gathered here. I heard that Ji Hongchen has reserved this place for the younger generation of prodigies to exchange for treasures. Yi Chuan explained. Ji Hongchen? Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were slightly taken aback. Haha, Ji Hongchen is one of the 3 strongest prodigies in our southern god palace. She's a peerless beauty. Perhaps she's on the highest floor today. If there's a chance, we might be able to meet her. Yi Chuan's eyes lit up when he mentioned Ji Hongchen. Lu Ming smiled slightly, and the 3 of them walked towards the Treasure Exchange Tower. There were 7 floors in total, and one had to pay a fee to enter. The first floor was 1,000 ores per person, and the higher the floor, the higher the price. The 3 of them paid the fee and stepped into a door made of light. Yes, the door of the Treasure Exchange Tower was not an ordinary door. It was a portal, and entering it was a portal. After the three of them stepped into the portal, they appeared on the side of a large hall in the next moment. The hall was extremely spacious, and there were rows of tables and chairs around the hall. At this moment, there were many people sitting at the tables and chairs. There was a large empty space between the tables and chairs, and a young man was standing there with a treasure in his hand. A piece of suashing iron. It's a top-level 7 refining material. I'll exchange it for 3 wind god pills. Whoever has 3 wind god pills can have this piece of suashing iron. The young man looked around, and his voice echoed throughout the hall. I happen to have 3 wind god pills. I'll exchange it with you. After a long while, a young lady stood up, took out a jade bottle and handed it over to the young man. The young man opened the jade bottle and looked inside. His face lit up with joy as he said, "It's really the wind god pellet. Many thanks, this piece of star iron is yours." The young man handed the suashing iron to the young woman, and the two of them sat down happily. The first floor is filled with people with low cultivation. It's rare to see high-quality items here. Let's go up. Each one said. Lu Ming nodded. He scanned with his spiritual sense and found that most of the young men on this floor were below the spiritual god realm. The three of them walked towards another door of light. The passageway between each floor required a teleportation gate. There were also people guarding the portal. The three of them handed over the oars and stepped into the portal. The layout of the second floor was exactly the same as that of the first floor. The only difference was that there were fewer people on the second floor, but their cultivation was higher than that of the first floor. In the first few floors, the three of them did not stop. Soon, they arrived at the 5th floor. Brother Yi, do you still want to continue upwards? I'll see if there's anything I need on this floor. Each one said. Brother Yi, please go ahead. We'll go up and take a look. Lu Ming said. The materials needed to concoct the Nirvana pill were all extremely rare. The higher the level, the higher the cultivation of the geniuses, the more likely it was to appear. Lu Ming planned to continue upwards. Alright, then I wish the two of you good luck in exchanging for what you need. Yi Chuan cupped his fists and walked towards the hall. He sat down on a chair. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing continued to walk towards another door of light and arrived at the 6th floor. There were fewer people on the 6th floor. At a glance, there were only about 50 people. Each of them was a young man with a strong aura. They had the potential to be dragons and phoenixes. Obviously, they were all geniuses from different continents. After arriving at this floor, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing did not continue upwards. Instead, they walked towards the tables and chairs at the side of the hall. At this moment, Lu Ming noticed a few cold gazes sweeping towards them. So, they're from the almighty crocodile continent. Lu Ming's lips curled up slightly. He ignored the gazes of the geniuses from the almighty crocodile continent and sat down at a table. At this moment, a young man was holding a treasure in the middle of the hall. He wanted to exchange for the treasure that he needed with someone else. However, the young man asked a few times, but no one answered him. Obviously, no one had the treasure that he needed. In the end, the young man sighed and left helplessly. After the young man left, another young man stepped forward. A milky white horn appeared in his hand. This is the horn of the Holy Light Tiger. It's a level 8 material. It can be exchanged for a lower divine martial arts movement technique. Anyone who has it can have it, the young man introduced. The treasures on the 6th floor are indeed of a higher level than the ones on the lower floors. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. However, the horn of the Holy Light Tiger was not something that he and Xian Yanqing needed. Naturally, they did not say anything. I'll exchange a movement technique with you. A young man stood up and took out a secret manual. The two of them exchanged happily. Next, the young men and women stepped forward one by one. They took out their treasures and said what they needed. Of course, not everyone could exchange for the treasures that they needed. Some people would settle for the next best thing. If someone could offer a good price, they would sell it to get some origin stones. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing looked around for half an hour. Unfortunately, they did not find the treasures that they needed. It seems that we have to go to the 7th floor to take a look. Lu Ming smiled bitterly at Xian Yanqing. I have a piece of sky thunder wood. I'll exchange it for a purple smoke fruit. At this moment, a voice sounded, shocking Lu Ming. Sky thunder wood. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The sky thunder wood actually had powerful lightning energy. It was very effective in comprehending the concept of lightning. Lu Ming had comprehended the concept of lightning. If he used the sky thunder wood to comprehend the concept of lightning, he could save a lot of time. However, Lu Ming did not have a purple smoke fruit. Lu Ming frowned slightly. Fortunately, some of the people present were also tempted. However, no one said anything. Obviously, there were no purple smoke fruits. No purple smoke fruits. The young man who took out the sky thunder wood asked with a disappointed expression. Brother, can I buy it with origin stones? Someone asked. The young man who took out the sky thunder wood pondered for a while and said, since there are no purple smoke fruits, let's buy it with origin stones. You guys bid, and the highest bidder will get it. I bid 500,000 origin stones. Immediately, someone made a bid. I bid 600,000. I bid 650,000. Soon, the price rose steadily and was called to 800,000 origin stones. The concept of lightning was one of the 9 common concepts. Naturally, there were many people who comprehended it. Therefore, Lu Ming was not in a hurry to bid. Soon, the price rose to 1 million origin stones. I bid 2 million origin stones. At this moment, a voice sounded and doubled the price. It's him, the genius of the divine crocodile continent. Lu Ming's eyes moved. He recognized the young man who suddenly increased the price. This person was the strongest person on the divine crocodile continent. He was at the peak of the 5th level spirit god realm. Half a month ago, he was easily defeated by Long Chen. At this moment, he was staring at the sky thunder wood with a burning gaze. Chapter 1203. The sudden increase of 1 million showed that the divine crocodile continent's prodigy was determined to get it. Many people chose to give in. However, there were still people who continued to bid. I'll bid 2,100,000. 2,200,000. There were still 2 people who bid, raising the price to 2,200,000. 3 million. The divine crocodile continent's prodigy opened his mouth again. He was determined to get it and raised the price to 3 million. Yi Kwong, since you want this sky thunder wood so much, I'll give it to you. A young man who originally bid said and withdrew from the competition. Yi Kwong was the name of the strongest prodigy in the divine crocodile continent. Forget it. 3 million isn't worth it. I'll keep it and buy something else. Another young man shook his head and gave up the competition. Yi Kwong's face showed a smile. His thunder essence had reached a bottleneck. This sky thunder would might help him break through the bottleneck. Now that no one competed with him, he was naturally overjoyed. Haha, in this case, I'll buy this sky thunder wood, Yi Kwong laughed. Wait a minute, I'll bid 3,500,000. At this moment, a voice sounded, causing Yi Kwong to stop mid-sentence. Then, his eyes flashed sharply as he looked at the person who spoke. It's you from the divine wilderness continent. Seeing the person who spoke, the sharpness in Yi Kwong's eyes intensified. The one who bid was naturally Lu Ming. I'll bid 3,500,000. Do you want it or not? If you don't want it, the sky thunder wood is mine. Lu Ming glanced at Yi Kwong and said lightly, I'll bid 4 million. Yi Kwong gritted his teeth. 5 million. Lu Ming directly increased the price by 1 million. Right now, Lu Ming's primordial stones were piled up like a mountain in his storage ring. He had plenty of primordial stones. He would not even bat an eyelid at the addition of 1 million primordial stones. Yi Kwong's face was completely gloomy. 5 million ores had already exceeded his budget. Kid, you're determined to go against me, aren't you? Yi Kwong stared at Lu Ming with unkind eyes. What a joke. Naturally, everyone wants treasures. You're not the only one who can use the heavenly lightning wood. I can use it too, so I naturally want it too. What does it have to do with you? If you want it, then add the raw stones. If you don't have any raw stones, Then shut up. Lu Ming said calmly. Brat, don't think that just because Long Chen has appeared in the divine wilderness continent, you trash can do whatever you want. Let me tell you, if Long Chen isn't here, I can suppress you with a flip of my hand. Yi Kwong yelled angrily and completely turned hostile. During this time, Long Chen's name had also spread, so Yi Kwong knew about it. Idiot. Lu Ming pursed his lips. Everyone, there's no rule against fighting in the treasure exchange pavilion, right? Yi Kwong's voice sounded, asking others. No, there is indeed no rule against fighting in the treasure conversion pavilion. Someone spoke with the mentality of watching a good show. Well, this person deliberately provoked me and raised the price with me. I can only teach him a lesson and let him know that everyone's actions and words have to be linked to his strength. Without strength, some actions can't be done and some words can't be said. Yi Kwong got up, stepped out, and closed in on Lu Ming. His eyes were cold. Hehe, it seems that Yi Kwong is furious. That brat is most likely going to be abused. Someone sneered. Indeed, Long Chen of the Divine Wilderness Continent is indeed powerful, but other than Long Chen, the rest are trash. Yet, they want to use Long Chen's name to do whatever they want. It's normal for them to be abused. Such a person will be killed sooner or later. There was a burst of discussion all around. These discussions were all heard by Lu Ming. Lu Ming was speechless. When did he use Long Chen's name to do whatever he wanted? Could it be that when he wanted to buy something at a high price, it became borrowing Long Chen's name? These people were too imaginative. In fact, it was no wonder. In the past, the Divine Wilderness Continent wasn't considered strong among the continents. This time, there was an existence like Long Chen with amazing combat strength. In the eyes of others, Long Chen was a special case. The rest of the Divine Wilderness Continent was still trash. Now that a trash was so arrogant, they naturally thought that Lu Ming was borrowing Long Chen's name to do whatever he wanted. Temph, brat, get out of here now. Give up bidding with me and I will let you go, Yi Kwong said. After all, he was still a little afraid of Long Chen. They lived in Soldier Peak and General Peak, which were next to each other. If Long Chen found trouble with him later, he was also afraid. Lu Ming shook his head and said, Little Qing, such trash also came to participate in the Celestial Divine Sect selection. Why do I feel that our chances of winning have greatly increased? I think so too. Hey, look, this person's face has become darker than a pig's liver. Xian Yanqing squinted his eyes and muttered along with Lu Ming. The two of them talked back and forth, directly making Yi Kwong's face turn into a pig's liver color. Courting death, I will cripple you, Yi Kwong roared. Sharp nails emerged from his claws, and his palms were covered with scales like a crocodile's claws. Moreover, there were traces of lightning on them. Swish. Yi Kwong's claw grabbed at Lu Ming's throat. It was as fast as lightning, unbelievably fast. This claw was terrifyingly powerful. Even an ordinary 7th-level spirit god martial artist would be killed by this claw. Boom. Boom. The 8 dragon forces in Lu Ming's body erupted. His arm muscles bulged, and he blasted out a punch. Boom. A muffled sound of impact rang out. Catcher. Catcher. Immediately, there was a sound of bones breaking. Yi Kwong snorted. His face changed drastically, and his body retreated wildly. In the main hall, dense inscriptions emerged on the ground, removing Yi Kwong's power. This person is so powerful. On the side, the others were shocked and a little aghast. At this moment, Yi Kwong's claws were completely deformed and twisted together. Obviously, Yi Kwong's 5 fingers were broken by Lu Ming's punch. Not only did this punch block Yi Kwong's attack, but it also broke Yi Kwong's fingers. This kind of power was amazing. You're courting death. Yi Kwong was furious. With a roar, the aura of a 5th-level spirit god erupted. At the same time, his bloodline emerged on top of his head. He transformed into a giant crocodile flashing with lightning. However, because he was in the treasure redemption house, his giant crocodile had become much smaller, unlike the mountain-like ones outside. Here, the giant crocodile's body had shrunk to 10 meters long, but its power had not weakened at all. It was still terrifying. Yi Kwong roared and pounced at Lu Ming. Today, I will teach you a lesson. Lu Ming got up, and the third bloodline emerged. His hair turned blood red. Endless murderous intent shrouded Yi Kwong. Whoosh. Chapter 1204. The sword light was like blood, filled with cold murderous intent as it cut through the void. Poochie. In front of everyone's shocked eyes, the giant crocodile transformed by Yi Kwong was directly split into two halves. The giant crocodile's huge body dissipated into energy light. In the light, a figure retreated quickly with blood splattering in the air. It was Yi Kwong. At this time, his face was pale with horror. One of his arms was missing. He controlled his body to stop the bleeding and looked at Lu Ming in shock. At the scene, the other young Sky Prides also showed shock and disbelief. One sword. With just one sword, Lu Ming broke through Yi Kwong's bloodline fusion and severed one of Yi Kwong's arms. Such combat power was really amazing. The divine wilderness continent was too frightening. First, there was Long Chen. Now, this young man gave off an even more unfathomable feeling. Originally, they thought that the divine wilderness continent only produced a powerful sky pride like Long Chen occasionally. The others were still trash, but now they realized that they were wrong. Originally, there was no need for Lu Ming to take action. Long Chen alone was enough to deal with all the people of the divine crocodile continent. To borrow your own words, everyone has to pay the price for their words. Consider this an arm as a lesson for you. Now scram. Lu Ming withdrew his third bloodline, and the aura on his body became calm again. He looked at Yi Kwong and said indifferently. Yi Kwong's face turned ugly, but he didn't dare to say a word. He turned around and disappeared from the teleportation array. Brother, here are 5 million raw stones to buy your Sky Thunder wood. Lu Ming took out a storage ring and walked to the young man who sold the Sky Thunder wood. Okay. Take the Sky Thunder wood. The young man was shocked and quickly handed the Sky Thunder wood to Lu Ming and kept Lu Ming's storage ring. Feeling the powerful thunder and lightning power in the Sky Thunder wood, Lu Ming smiled and returned to his seat. Little Ching, see if there's anything you need. Buy it together, Lu Ming said to Xian Yanqing. Yes, but I need items that contain demonic aura. They might be rare, Xian Yanqing said. The treasure exchange continued. However, they didn't see anything that Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing needed. After a period of time, Lu Ming walked to the center of the hall, cupped his fists and said, Everyone, this one is Lu Ming. I need 9-leaf Ganoderma, Emperor's Essence, Emperor's Bloodstone. If anyone has any of these treasures, feel free to name your price. Lu Ming will definitely find a way to achieve it. Lu Ming listed 5 materials in a row, all of which were the main materials for refining the Nirvana pill. The Nirvana pill required a total of 7 main ingredients. Now, he had already collected 2 of them, and he was still short of 5. These 5 are all extremely rare spiritual herbs and treasures. I don't have them on me. Indeed, neither do I. The surrounding young men shook their heads, indicating that they did not. After a while, seeing that everyone was shaking their heads, Lu Ming was somewhat disappointed and returned to his seat. Xiao Qing, shall we go to the top floor to take a look? Lu Ming said. Millimeter. Xian Yanqing nodded and left with Lu Ming, walking towards the portal. This was the 6th floor, and there was another floor above it, which was the 7th floor. After stepping through the portal, the 2 of them appeared on the 7th floor. There were even fewer people on the 7th floor. There were only about 20 of them, sitting around. When Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing made their moves, pairs of eyes immediately looked towards them. However, most of them glanced at Lu Ming and ignored him. Most of them stopped at Xian Yanqing. What a beautiful girl. I wonder which continent she's from. Her appearance is not inferior to Ji Hongchen's. Low murmurs could be heard. It's them, Lu Ming. In the crowd, there was a person with a cold gaze. It was Mu Feng. He was also here. Mu Feng, do you know them? Beside Mu Feng, there was a very handsome young man. He wore a jade crown on his head and a golden robe, looking like a noble young master. At this moment, he looked at Xian Yanqing with a burning gaze. I know them. They are the geniuses of the divine wilderness continent. The man is Lu Ming and the woman is Xian Yanqing. Mu Feng said. Divine Wilderness Continent. I heard that Long Chen's combat strength is not bad. What about these two? What do you think? The noble young master said. Lu Ming's combat strength is slightly stronger than mine. The woman should be average, Mu Feng said, deliberately saying that Lu Ming's combat strength was only slightly stronger than his. Millimeter, that woman is not bad. I didn't expect there to be such a beauty in the divine wilderness continent. The noble young master stared at Xian Yanqing, his gaze burning even more. If cousin wants her, why don't you accept her? Mu Feng suggested. Millimeter, that's good too. After the treasure auction is over, I'll send someone to bring this girl to my residence, the noble young master said. His words were filled with strong confidence, as if he had made such a decision. The two of them spoke through voice transmission, so Lu Ming could not hear them. However, Lu Ming could still feel their gazes. Mu Feng. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold as he walked towards a table with Xian Yanqing. At the same time, Lu Ming's gaze swept across the entire hall. There were only 20 or so people on the 7th floor, but all of them were full of essence qi. Their bodies faintly emitted an astonishing aura. Clearly, they were all geniuses among geniuses. Among them, there were a few whose auras made Lu Ming frown, feeling a sense of danger. What caught Lu Ming's attention the most was a woman sitting at the head of the table. She was wearing a fiery red dress, like a blooming flower. She was incomparably beautiful, but there was also a heroic spirit exuding from her. It was a very strange temperament, but on her body, it did not seem abrupt. Instead, it was very harmonious, forming a different kind of beauty. She was indeed beautiful, not inferior to the 5 great beauties of the central continent. What's wrong? You can't take your eyes off a beauty. Are you tempted? Xian Yanqing's voice sounded in Lu Ming's ears. What's wrong? Are you jealous? Lu Ming looked at Xian Yanqing teasingly. I'm not. Xian Yanqing pouted. How can she be as beautiful as you? How could I be tempted? Lu Ming said softly, causing Xian Yanqing's face to turn slightly red, and she gave Lu Ming an expression that said, at least you know what's good for you. The two of them sat to the side. At this moment, a young man took out a treasure and wanted to exchange it with the crowd. As expected of the 7th floor, the treasure that was taken out was different. It was a piece of golden mother iron, which was extremely rare. It was an excellent material for refining spirit weapons, and even Lu Ming was tempted. Unfortunately, he did not have what the other party needed. Very quickly, the young man sighed and put it away. Then, his palm lit up and another piece of yellow stone appeared. This is the ancient mine of the ruins of God. Someone asked. That's right, it's the ancient mine of the ruins of God, the young man replied. Everyone knows that the ancient mine of the ruins of God might contain peerless treasures. Right now, I have 3 pieces in my hands. They were all obtained from the ruins of God. Now, I will sell these 3 pieces. The highest bidder will get them. Chapter 1205. The Ancient Mine of the Ruins of God. Lu Ming's expression changed, and he was a little curious. Previously, they had taken the cross-sea flying ship to the continent of God for a month, so they more or less had some understanding of the continent of God. The reason why the continent of God was called the continent of God was because there were several ruins of God on the continent of God. It was very dangerous inside, but it was also filled with endless treasures and mysteries, so it was called the ruins of God. Legend had it that the ruins of God originally did not exist. Countless years ago, the sky split open and countless things fell from the sky, forming the ruins of God. From the ruins of God, one could excavate a type of or called the ancient mine of the ruins of God. The ore might contain supreme treasures. Some people had cut out supreme divine weapons, some had cut out supreme secret manuals, and some had cut out the bones, blood, essence, and so on of supreme experts. They were all supreme treasures. Of course, it was more likely that there was nothing inside. For a moment, no one made a sound. Buying the ancient mine of the ruins of God was like gambling. If one bought it, they might not get anything. The chances of getting treasures from the ancient mine of the ruins of God were too small. That's, beside Mu Feng, there seemed to be flames dancing in the eyes of the noble young master. His eyes were fixed on one of the ancient mines of the ruins of God as if he had sensed something. Lu Ming, I suggest you buy it because there's something good in one of the ancient mines. It might be of some help to you. At this moment, Danden's voice sounded. After this guy entered the treasure exchange tower, he had been lying on Lu Ming's shoulder without making a sound. Now, he suddenly sent a voice transmission to Lu Ming. You can sense the things in the ancient mine of the ruins of God. Lu Ming was stunned. It was said that the layer of yellow or outside the ancient mine of the ruins of God was very strange. It could block the scanning of spiritual senses. If one did not cut open the ancient mine, one would not know in advance whether there was anything in the ancient mine, let alone what it was. Only in very rare cases would one be able to sense something. For example, the noble young master's bloodline was faintly beating. He felt that there was something in the ancient mine that was extremely compatible with his bloodline. That was why there was a slight reaction. This ancient mine is mine. The young master's eyes lit up as he said, I'll bet 100,000 origin stones on my luck. 100,000 primordial stones was not considered high, but it was not low either. If the 3 ancient mines were empty, the 100,000 primordial stones would have been wasted. Haha, Mu Ju, you're rich and overbearing. 100,000 raw stones is just a drop in the ocean for you. I'm not as rich as you, so I won't bet with you. Me too. At the side, the other youths laughed. There were many ancient mines of the godly ruins in other places of the southern divine palace. If they wanted to buy them, they could buy them at any time. Therefore, the others all shook their heads and did not bid. This made the corner of Mu Ju's mouth curl into a smile. If he could buy a primordial stone that contained a treasure with 100,000 primordial stones, then it would be a huge profit. His heart trembled. I bid 200,000 ores. This is the first time I've seen an ancient mine in the ruins of God. It's interesting. I'll try my luck too. Lu Ming said calmly. Lu Ming's words made Mu Ju's eyes turn cold. 300,000. Mu Ju said. Then I'll bid 500,000. Lu Ming said. This made Mu Ju's face turn even uglier. He looked at Lu Ming and said, Kid, you're new here, so you probably don't know the market price of the ancient mines of the godly ruins. Let me tell you, it's rumored that there are peerless treasures in the ancient mines of the godly ruins. However, the chances of that are very small. 99% of the ancient mines are empty. If you buy it, you might lose out. You don't have to worry about that. Also, don't you want to buy it too? Lu Ming smiled faintly. Me. Mu Ju snorted and continued to bid, 600,000. At this time, the other's eyes flickered. Looking at Mu Ju's expression, he seemed to want it very much. Could it be that he sensed something? Haha, I feel like I'm in luck today. I'll buy it too. I'll bid 700,000. Is that so? I feel the same way. I'll bid 800,000. I'll bid 900,000. The other youths also bid. 4 sky prides like them, 100,000 primordial stones was nothing. If there were really treasures in the ancient mines of the godly ruins, then they would make a fortune. Soon, the price rose to 1,500,000 primordial stones. This made Mu Ju's face turn even uglier. All of this was because of Lu Ming. If it wasn't for Lu Ming competing with him, he might be able to buy the 3 ancient mines of the godly ruins with just 100,000 primordial stones. Now, he couldn't even buy it with 2 million. Although Mu Ju didn't really care about 1 or 2 million primordial stones, he was very unhappy to have spent so many primordial stones. 2 million primordial stones. Mu Ju gritted his teeth and called out a price. This guy called out such a high price. Could it be that he really sensed something? The other's eyes flickered and continued to bid. Soon, the price rose to 3 million. Lu Ming, forget it. Although there are things in there, the value is at most 3 million. Any higher and you'll lose money, Dandan said. Lu Ming was very surprised. It seemed that Dandan could really sense the specific things inside. Otherwise, How could he even measure the price? At this point, Lu Ming stopped bidding. On the other hand, Mu Ju and the other young men were still bidding. In the end, the price rose to 5 million primordial stones and was bought by Mu Ju. Damn it! Mu Ju looked coldly at Lu Ming, killing intent flashed in his eyes. On the side, Mu Feng was ecstatic. This Lu Ming is really courting death. How dare he offend Mu Ju? It seems that I don't need to find someone to deal with him, Mu Feng sneered in his heart. After that young man sold the ancient mines of the godly ruins, he went down. Then, another person went up and took out treasures to exchange. Some people succeeded in exchanging treasures, while others returned disappointed. After seeing the treasures taken out by several people, Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming didn't have what they wanted. The two shook their heads in disappointment. It seemed that it wasn't easy to find what they needed. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a fire spiritual root here. I need to exchange it for a sword-shaped stone. I don't know who has a sword-shaped stone, but one is enough. Suddenly, a voice sounded. What? Fire spiritual root? Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat, and his eyes lit up. Fire spiritual root happened to be one of the main ingredients for refining nirvana pills. Finally, he found something he needed. Fire spiritual root, it's the fire spiritual root. Pang Yuan actually took out such a precious treasure. On the side, voices sounded. Fire spiritual root was a level 9 treasure. It was very rare in the world, and many people were tempted. But, a sword-shaped stone? Many people frowned. A sword-shaped stone was a treasure of the same level as the fire spiritual root. It was also rare in the world. Who would have it? It's the fire spiritual root. Mu Ju's eyes suddenly lit up, emitting a blazing light. It was incomparably hot and greedy. Chapter 1206. Pang Yuan, must you exchange it with a sword-shaped stone? I can use other treasures or raw stones to buy it from you. Name your price. Mu Ju stood up and stared at the fire spiritual root in Pang Yuan's hand. No, the fire spiritual root is useful to me, but I need a sword-shaped stone more. If you have one, I'll exchange it with you. If you don't, then forget it. Pang Yuan said. Pang Yuan, the fire spiritual root is useful to me. Can't we talk about it? Mu Ju did not give up and said with a fiery gaze. What does it have to do with me if it's useful to you? Pang Yuan sneered. You, Mu Ju's face darkened. However, Pang Yuan was a famous sky pride in the South God Palace and had a powerful force behind him. Hence, Mu Ju was wary of Pang Yuan. If it was someone else, he would have taken action. Who has a sword-shaped stone? If you don't, then forget it. Pang Yuan said. I have one. Suddenly, a voice sounded. Everyone turned to look at the source of the voice. It's him. Many people were stunned. The one who spoke was Lu Ming. You have a sword-shaped stone? Pang Yuan's eyes lit up as he looked at Lu Ming. That's right. Lu Ming stood up and his palm glowed. A small stone sword appeared in Lu Ming's hand. The stone sword was the size of a palm. It was milky white and there was a faint sword qi being emitted from it. This was a sword-shaped stone. Lu Ming also felt lucky. This sword-shaped stone was found when Xiel Wan killed the Tianwu sword sex expert and Lu Ming was sorting through the storage rings of the Tianwu sword sex expert. When Xiel Wan killed so many experts, Lu Ming obtained a lot of good stuff and put them together. Now, it came in handy. It's really a sword-shaped stone. Pang Yuan's eyes lit up as he looked at the stone sword in Lu Ming's hand. The sword-shaped stone was very useful to a sword cultivator. This sword-shaped stone should be enough to repay your fire spiritual root, Lu Ming said. Of course, Pang Yuan said with a smile. Wait. At this moment, Mu Ju said coldly. He took a step forward and stopped in front of Lu Ming. He looked at Lu Ming and said, Kid, sell your sword-shaped stone to me. Sell it to you? I'm sorry, but my sword-shaped stone needs to be exchanged with Brother Pang for the fire spiritual root. I don't have any extra sword-shaped stones, Lu Ming said. If you don't have any extra, sell the one in your hand to me. Hurry up, I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Name your price, Mu Ju said impatiently. Lu Ming frowned and said, don't you understand what I said? I said that I have a use for this stone. Nonsense, I don't care if you're useful or not. Sell him to me now, do you hear me? Mu Ju coldly scolded. Haha. Where did this idiot come from? Lu Ming sneered. Lu Ming was really speechless. This Mu Ju obviously wanted to use his sword-shaped stone to exchange for the fire spiritual root with Pang Yuan. He didn't dare to do anything to Pang Yuan. But he dared to bully him. At the side, the others looked on indifferently and didn't say anything. Kid, what did you say? Do you know who I am? I am Mu Ju, the young master of the Mu clan, one of the top 10 clans of the Southern Divine Palace. You dare. Get lost, I don't care who you are. It's none of my business who you are. A good dog doesn't block the way. Before Mu Ju could finish his words, he was coldly scolded by Lu Ming. He forcefully swallowed his words back. You're courting death. A mere trash from the divine wilderness continent dares to be so arrogant. If I don't teach you a lesson today, you won't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Mu Ju's face was completely gloomy. His eyes were cold and the aura on his body became violent. A layer of flame spread out from his body. At the side, the others looked on quietly and no one stopped him. In this world, treasures could only be obtained and protected if one had the strength to do so. Whoosh! Mu Ju waved his hand and a long whip condensed from flames lashed towards Lu Ming's face. You really think I'm a pushover? A cold light flashed in Lu Ming's eyes. His palm was like a knife as he slashed out. With a puff, the flame whip condensed by Mu Ju was cut into two. You have some ability, but you're still too inexperienced to be arrogant in front of me, Mu Ju said coldly. Boom. The aura on his body became even more violent. A terrifying pressure bloomed in the hall. The pressure was so strong that it surpassed the 5th level of the spirit god realm. The 6th level of the spirit god realm. Moreover, it was the peak of the 6th level of the spirit god realm. Mu Ju's cultivation had reached the peak of the 6th level of the spirit god realm. He was one level stronger than Lu Ming. Is this the strength of the Southern Divine Palace's genius? Lu Ming's eyes moved. The Godly Ruins continent was indeed the strongest continent in the Godly Ruins continent. The Southern Divine Palace could be considered as one of the 4 strongest forces in the Divine Ruins continent. The geniuses of the Southern Divine Palace were naturally extraordinary. In the Divine Wilderness continent, a genius like Long Chen was only at the peak of the 5th level of the Spirit God realm. The other geniuses like Xian Yanjuan and Underworld Child had just broken through to the 4th level of the Spirit God realm. The difference between them was too great. Kneel down. Mu Ju snorted coldly. He struck out with his palm, condensing a huge palm print that blasted toward Lu Ming. He wanted to suppress Lu Ming with one palm and make him kneel on the spot. So what if you're at the 6th level of the Spirit God realm? Lu Ming wasn't afraid at all. The dragon force in his body erupted as he threw out a punch. Boom! The terrifying fist energy bombarded the flaming hand and directly pierced through the flaming hand condensed by Mu Ju. Again. Mu Ju's eyes turned colder when he saw that his palm was destroyed by Lu Ming. Come on, it's my turn now. Lu Ming took a step forward. The ground trembled and countless inscriptions appeared. Swoosh! Lu Ming's figure instantly closed in on Lu Ming. At the same time, the 3rd bloodline appeared above his head. A wisp of energy flowed into him, causing his body to emit a bloody light. Boom! Borrowing the power of the 3rd bloodline, Lu Ming's strength surged again as he threw out a punch towards Mu Ju. A cold murderous intent shrouded Mu Ju as a terrifying force pressed down on him. This made Mu Ju's countenance change slightly. With a roar, flames flared and he threw a punch at Lu Ming. Boom! The two fists collided. Mu Ju's expression changed drastically as his body retreated a few steps. On the other hand, Lu Ming's body only swayed a little. What? Mu Ju was repelled. How is this possible? Mu Ju is at the peak of the 6th level of the Spirit God realm. How could he be repelled? That Lu Ming is only at the 5th level of the Spirit God realm. How could this happen? The scene was in an uproar when Muju was repelled with a punch. Many people cried out in shock. Among them, there were a few young men whose eyes flickered with splendor. For example, the beautiful woman in the fiery red dress had a look of astonishment in her eyes. "Damn it, kid, I'm going to kill you." Muju roared furiously after being repelled by Lu Ming's punch. Chapter 1207. The killing intent on Muju's body was extremely dense. The flames on his body were jumping crazily, and his bloodline emerged above his head. Muju's bloodline was a vine that was filled with flames. There were 9 golden chakras shining on the vine. He used bloodline fusion and turned into a flaming vine. A terrifying aura filled the air. "Die for me." The flaming vines waved like long whips, rolling towards Lu Ming. The blazing flames seemed to be able to burn everything. The other youths around him got up one after another. Their true essence shone on their body, and intent revolved around them to resist the remaining power of the flames. Bang! Lu Ming used the suppressing hell art and struck out a palm. It hit one of the vines and made a dull collision sound. Lu Ming felt a gush of scorching flames spreading toward him. His palms felt slightly numb. To be honest, Muju was very strong. A 9th level divine ranked bloodline and a peak 6th level spirit god realm cultivation base. His battle strength was extremely terrifying, much stronger than Yi Kwong. Swish, swish, swish. The flaming vines kept waving and whipping towards Lu Ming. This kind of vine could crack the earth with a single strike. Its power was terrifying. Lu Ming's 5-colored intent enveloped his body. The suppressing hell art's power was getting stronger and stronger. He struck out palm after palm. Bang, bang, bang. Lu Ming's palm kept colliding with the flaming vines. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged more than a dozen moves. The two of them were evenly matched. This had already shocked the others. So strong. This Lu Ming is so strong. It's unbelievable that he can fight Muju above his level. It's indeed unbelievable. The divine wilderness continent is amazing, the rest of the people exclaimed. Their gazes toward Lu Ming were filled with fear. They had all awakened 9th level divine ranked bloodline and stood at the peak of all the prodigies. Their battle strength was unparalleled, and fighting above their level was as common as eating rice. For prodigies like them, it was almost impossible for others to fight above their level. Among prodigies with 9th level divine ranked bloodline, who would be weaker than the other? But now, Muju, who had reached the peak 6th level spirit god realm, was fighting above his level. And the person who fought above his level was from the divine wilderness continent, which wasn't very famous. "Ah, die, die." Muju howled madly. His cultivation was 1 level higher than Lu Ming's, but he still couldn't take down Lu Ming. This made him extremely angry. If news of this got out, his reputation would definitely take a huge hit. What was a genius? Geniuses needed to surpass levels to defeat others, and not be defeated by others. If one was defeated by others, what kind of genius was that? He was bound to become a joke. He was furious. He wanted nothing more than to grind Lu Ming's bones to dust. He launched an even more violent attack. What are you shouting for? Would shouting louder increase one's combat strength? Peak of the 6th level of the spirit god realm. Just this bit of combat strength is really disappointing. It's time to end this. Lu Ming laughed disdainfully. Roar. The 9 dragons' bloodlines appeared above his head. That's his bloodline? It seems to be the legendary 9 dragons' bloodline, but it's only at level 8 of the divine realm. Only at level 8 of the divine realm. As soon as Lu Ming's bloodline appeared, it caused another uproar. Lu Ming turned into 9 dragons, opened his mouth and roared. His devouring power enveloped Muju, causing the flaming vines to tremble. Bang! Bang! The 9 dragons stepped forward and executed the 9 dragons' heaven-stomping step. The violent power bombarded the flaming vines. After a few consecutive explosions, 3 of the flaming vines exploded into pieces. The 9 dragons let out a long roar and each of their claws grabbed a flaming vine. With a forceful tear, the 9 flaming vines were all torn apart and turned into flames. Bang! The divine dragon swung its tail. The 9 dragons' tails executed the hell-suppressing heavenly art and whipped the main position of the flaming vines. The roots of the flaming vines were directly sent flying and heavily crashed into the wall. Boom! Countless inscriptions flickered on the wall, but it still shook violently. Mu Ju let out a miserable scream. He was completely suppressed, completely crushed. After Lu Ming executed the bloodline fusion, he completely crushed Mu Ju. Swish! The 9 dragons twisted their bodies and instantly appeared in front of Mu Ju. Their dragon claws clawed out continuously. The rumbling sound was unceasing, and Mu Ju's miserable scream was also heard, causing many people to shiver. After a dozen consecutive moves, Mu Ju finally couldn't resist anymore. His bloodline collapsed and he reverted to his original form. At this moment, his hair was disheveled and he was vomiting blood. His body was covered in injuries and looked extremely miserable. In the crowd, Mu Feng's face was pale without a trace of blood. Mu Ju, who had reached the peak of the 6th level spirit god realm, was defeated. He never dreamed that he would be defeated so miserably. He originally thought that he could borrow Mu Ju's hand to cripple Lu Ming and take revenge for the day he was beaten up by Lu Ming. He never thought that such a powerful Mu Ju would follow in his footsteps. "Bastard, you dare to hit me? You're dead." Mu Ju roared furiously. He hated Lu Ming to the bone. After today, he, Mu Ju, would definitely become the laughingstock of the Southern Divine Palace. The 9 dragons shrunk and Lu Ming reverted to his human form. His eyes were cold as he kicked Mu Ju's face. Mu Ju screamed as his head heavily hit the wall. His face was deformed. "How dare you threaten me? Do you believe that I won't kill you right now?" The killing intent on Lu Ming's body was so intense that it chilled Mu Ju's heart. Damn it! Damn it! Mu Ju roared furiously in his heart, but he didn't dare to say another word. Lu Ming's blood-red hair fluttered and his eyes were blood-red. That killing intent was too intense and cold. He really suspected that Lu Ming would kill him if he said another word. He reached out and sucked. His vital essence swirled and the storage ring in Mu Ju's hand flew toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming grabbed it. "Take this storage ring as your punishment. It's compensation for my mental trauma." Lu Ming slowly kept Mu Ju's storage ring. You can't do this." Mu Ju wailed. Mu Ju wailed. That storage ring was all of his savings. Also, what mental damage compensation? Speaking of compensation, shouldn't he be the one who should be compensated? Why was he beaten so badly? "Do you want to die?" Lu Ming's blood-red eyes narrowed. Mu Ju didn't dare to utter a word. However, his body was trembling slightly due to anger. "Get lost," Lu Ming said faintly as he turned around and left. If this happened in the Divine Desolate Continent, he would have been slapped to death by Lu Ming. However, this was the Divine Ruins Continent after all. Lu Ming had just arrived here, so he was merciful. Mu Ju glared at Lu Ming with hatred. He staggered to his feet and walked towards the portal. "Cousin, wait for me." Mu Feng's legs were trembling in fear. He quickly followed Mu Ju and left this place. "Brother Pang, here's the sword-shaped stone you wanted." Lu Ming walked towards Pang Yuan and passed the sword-shaped stone to him. "Ha ha ha, Brother Lu's combat strength is really admirable." Mu Ju, that arrogant and despotic fellow, finally kicked an iron plate today. Pang Yuan laughed and passed the fire spiritual root to Lu Ming. "Brother Pang, you're too polite," Lu Ming said. Both of them were happy with their gains. Interesting. Chapter 1208. The auction continued. Following this, the others went up and took out their treasures. "I have 2 ancient mines of the godly ruins too. I'm not sure if anyone needs them." A while later, another young man went up and took out 2 yellow ancient mines of the godly ruins. Millimeter? Xian Yanqing raised his eyebrows when the young man took out the 2 ancient mines of the godly ruins. "Lu Ming, I can sense something in one of the mines." Xian Yanqing transmitted his voice to Lu Ming. "Xiao Qing, you can sense it." Lu Ming was surprised. "Lu Ming, there is indeed something in one of the mines that is suitable for the girl. That's why she sensed it." However, it's not too valuable. Dandan transmitted his voice to Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded and decided to buy it. Just like before, buying the ancient mines of the godly ruins was like a gamble. Almost no one bid. I'm quite curious about the ancient mines of the godly ruins since it's my first time here. I'll buy these 2 ancient mines for 100,000 primal stones and study them, Lu Ming said casually. It seemed like he had bought the 2 ancient mines purely out of curiosity. After Lu Ming spoke, no one else spoke. The young man was slightly depressed. The previous 3 ancient mines of the godly ruins had been sold for 5 million primal stones, but his 2 ancient mines were only sold for 100,000 primal stones. After waiting for a while, seeing that no one else was bidding, he had no choice but to sell them to Lu Ming for 100,000 primal stones. Lu Ming handed the primal stones to the young man and kept the 2 ancient mines, but he did not go down. Instead, he scanned the crowd and said, Lu Ming would like to buy the royal bloodstone, 9-leaf Ganoderma, Earth Emperor Essence, and Star Anise Mysterious Icegrass. If you have these materials, feel free to state your conditions. Lu Ming will try his best to fulfill them. Royal Bloodstone, Earth Emperor Essence. The others were startled. These 4 materials are extremely valuable. Their value is comparable to the fire spiritual root. In fact, the Star Anise Mysterious Icegrass is even more valuable. That's right, I've only heard of these 4 herbs and materials, but I've never seen them before. The others discussed among themselves. Almost all of them shook their heads, indicating that they did not. Royal Bloodstone, I have one. Right at this moment, a clear and melodious voice sounded. Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he looked towards the source of the sound. The one who spoke was the stunning woman in the fiery red dress. It's Ji Hongchen. Someone whispered. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. This woman was indeed Ji Hongchen. Yi Chuan had mentioned one of the 3 strongest prodigies of the younger generation of Southern God Palace. Miss Ji, you have the royal bloodstone? Lu Ming looked expectant. Ji Hongchen's palm glowed, and a dark red stone appeared. This stone looked like a blood-red jade, but strangely, there was a pleasant fragrance coming from it. It really is the royal bloodstone. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Miss Ji, what treasure do you need to exchange royal bloodstones for? See if I have it on me. If I don't, I'll definitely think of a way to get it, Lu Ming said. Brother Lu, this is your first time in the ruins of God. Since you're a guest, I don't need to exchange for any treasure. Brother Lu can buy it with origin stones. 30 million origin stones it is, Ji Hongchen said. 30 million? Lu Ming was slightly taken aback. It was not because it was too expensive, but because it was too cheap. A rare treasure like the royal bloodstone belonged to the top of level 9. It was rare in the world, and its real price was definitely more than 30 million. Miss Ji, 30 million origin stones is a great bargain for me, Lu Ming said. Brother Lu, you're a guest. Just treat it as a friend. Ji Hongchen smiled and was very forthright. Everyone knew that Ji Hongchen's attitude was because of Lu Ming's strength. If Lu Ming's battle strength was weak, Ji Hongchen would not have bothered with him. However, Lu Ming's strength had attracted Ji Hongchen's attention, which was why he wanted to befriend him. Thank you, Miss Ji. Lu Ming was not a shy person. He took out a storage ring, put 30 million origin stones in it, and handed it to Ji Hongchen. Ji Hongchen handed the royal bloodstone to Lu Ming. After putting away the royal bloodstone, Lu Ming returned to his seat in a good mood. Today's harvest was not bad. Next, more people took out treasures to exchange, but Xian Yanqing and Lu Ming were not interested. After looking for a while, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing stood up and left. They went to the 5th floor and said goodbye to Yi Chuan. They left the treasure exchange building and returned to their residence in the General Peak. In the room, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing entered the mountain river diagram and sat cross-legged on a mountain peak. An ancient mine of the ruins of God floated between the 2 of them. This was the one that Xian Yanqing could sense. Lu Ming's true essence condensed into a true essence blade and slashed at the ancient mine of the ruins of God. The ancient mine of the ruins of God was very hard, even harder than many metals. However, It was easily cut open by Lu Ming's true essence blade. Suddenly, a wisp of black demonic chi spread out. There's really something. Lu Ming's expression changed. This ancient mine of the ruins of God was really mysterious. There was something sealed in it. Crack. In the end, the ancient mine of the ruins of God cracked open and a drop of dark red blood appeared. A dense demonic light soared into the sky. This is the blood of an expert that was sealed in the ancient mine of the ruins of God. Lu Ming was inwardly shocked. Legend had it that the ancient mine of the ruins of God did not come from the ruins of God. Some people guessed that it came from beyond the heavens. There was a great battle between experts, and treasures, blood, and essence blood splashed onto the ancient mine of the ruins of God. Due to various reasons, some treasures and blood were sealed in the ancient mine of the ruins of God and preserved after a long period of time. The owner of this drop of blood is an expert who cultivates the demonic path. Although many years have passed and the power of this drop of blood is not much, it is still very useful to me. If I refine it, my cultivation will definitely increase, Xian Yanqing said. Well, little Qing, then hurry up and refine it, lest the energy dissipates, Lu Ming said. Xian Yanqing nodded, and a bloodline appeared on his head. He formed a seal with both hands, attracting a drop of blood to his hand and began to refine it. Lu Ming estimated that it would take at least a few days for Xian Yanqing to refine a drop of demonic blood. Lu Ming came to a nearby mountain and took out the remaining ancient mines of the ruins of God. 3 of them were bought by Mu Ju, but his storage ring was taken by Lu Ming, so the 3 ancient mines of the ruins of God naturally fell into Lu Ming's hands. One of them was the one that Dandan sensed had a treasure. Lu Ming put it aside and cut the other 3 ancient mines of the ruins of God one by one. There was indeed nothing inside, just 3 pieces of ore that were useless. Lu Ming looked at the last ancient mine and cut it with the blade of true origin. Suddenly, a blazing aura spread out from the ancient mine of the ruins of God. Lu Ming was overjoyed and cut open the ancient mine completely. This is a weapon fragment. Chapter 1209. This weapon fragment was only the size of a fingernail, but it was filled with a blazing aura like a ball of raging flames. This must be the weapon fragment of a supreme powerhouse. It contains a strong fire energy. If I extract it and refine it, my fire concept will definitely improve greatly. Lu Ming pondered and was a little tempted. He then circulated his true yuan and wrapped it around the weapon fragment, beginning to extract it. As Lu Ming continued to condense, a flame was extracted from the weapon fragment and jumped on Lu Ming's fingertip. Refine. His true yuan wrapped around the flame and began to refine it. On the other hand, Lu Ming closed his eyes and carefully sensed the power of fire in it, improving his fire concept. Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days had passed. In more than 10 days, Lu Ming had completely refined the ball of flame. Fire concept, peak 4th level greater mastery. Lu Ming opened his eyes, and a ball of flame flashed through his eyes. The pinnacle of level 4 greater mastery was only a step away from level 4 perfection. Boom! A demonic aura surged from a nearby mountain, and a demonic aura soared into the sky. Peak of the 4th level of the spirit god realm. Little Qing's cultivation has improved greatly as well. Lu Ming revealed a smile on his face. When he first met Xian Yanqing in the 9 underworlds, Xian Yanqing had just broken through to the 3rd level spirit god. Later on, after receiving Xian Yanqing's inheritance and cultivating for a period of time, Xian Yanqing's cultivation had already reached the 4th level spirit god. However, he was only at the early 4th level spirit god. Obviously, Xian Yanqing had refined that drop of demonic blood in this half a month, and his cultivation had directly reached the peak 4th level spirit god. However, although the energy of that drop of demonic blood had been completely refined, Xian Yanqing was still cultivating. Lu Ming felt that the heavenly demon concept was restless in Xian Yanqing's body. Little Qing wants to take this opportunity to break through the heavenly demon concept in one go. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. He knew Xian Yanqing's plan. That drop of demon blood also contained a strong demonic intent realm, which had greatly affected Xian Yanqing. It was normal for him to have a breakthrough in his intent realm. Lu Ming didn't disturb Xian Yanqing. A section of heavenly thunder wood appeared in his hand. Lu Ming planned to use the heavenly thunder wood to continue cultivating and comprehend the concept of thunder. Similar to refining the weapon fragment earlier, Lu Ming first extracted a strand of lightning from the heavenly thunder wood, then refined this strand of lightning to improve his lightning concept. In the blink of an eye, another dozen days passed. In total, Lu Ming had been in seclusion for a month. Lu Ming had also completely refined a wisp of thunder. His thunder concept had also reached the peak of the 4th level in one fell swoop. The heavenly thunder wood that he bought for 5 million origin stones could allow his concept of thunder to reach the peak of the 4th level of large success. Swoosh! A figure stepped on the air and appeared in front of Lu Ming. It was Xian Yanqing. Little Qing, your intent realm has broken through? Lu Ming asked. Yes, the heavenly demon intent has reached the peak of the 4th level of large success. Unfortunately, I'm only one step away from reaching the peak of the 4th level, Xian Yanqing said. This time, she had gained a lot. Her cultivation was only one step away from breaking through to the 5th level of Spirit God. That ancient mine of God is really amazing. I reckon that there must be a supreme expert who cultivated the demonic Tao who was killed. Their flesh and blood scattered, and some of them were sealed in the ancient mine of God, Xian Yanqing said. Lu Ming nodded. He was also very curious about the ancient mine of God. Woo woo woo, at this moment, a cry sounded in the sky. The cry sounded very sad and mournful. This made Lu Ming's expression change drastically. This cry definitely did not come from the mountain and river diagram, but from the outside world. However, the mountain and river diagram was a heavenly abode treasure. It formed a world of its own and was isolated from the outside world. Sound could not be transmitted in at all. But how did this sound come in? Obviously, Xian Yanqing also thought of this, and his expression changed. Swoosh! Dandan flew over from afar and appeared on Lu Ming's shoulder. He said, "What's the crying sound? It's so unpleasant to hear, and it even came here. It's coming from outside. Let's go out and take a look," Lu Ming said. With a thought, Lu Ming, Xian Yanqing, and Dandan came out of the mountain and river diagram together. As soon as they came out of the mountain and river diagram, the crying sound became even clearer. It came from the east. The two of them went out of the room and came to the courtyard. That's, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing looked to the east, and their eyes widened in shock. At this time, it was night. The world was dark, and the moon and stars could not be seen. But in the east, the sky was blood red. It was like the sunset, but it was not sunset. The light rushed out from the ground and dyed the sky red. And the mournful crying sound came from that direction. Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing flew out of the courtyard and into the sky. They could see more clearly. At this moment, the sky above the southern divine palace was full of people, all looking to the east. Tuoba Shi, do you know what's going on? Tuoba Shi was beside the two of them. Lu Ming asked. General Lu. Tuoba Shi cupped his fists and said, during this period of time, I specially asked around. As far as I know, that direction is the direction of the ruins of God. I heard that there will be such a phenomenon every year in the ruins of God. The sky will be dyed red, and there will be cries, "Ruins of God!" Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing were slightly surprised. They did not expect such a phenomenon to come from the ruins of God. The ruins of God is very mysterious. It contains treasures like the ancient mine of the ruins of God, but it is also very dangerous. There is no danger outside the ruins of God, but it is very dangerous inside, especially in the core area. There have been emperors who have entered, but they have never come out. Tuoba Shi said. This made Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing even more surprised. It was indeed shocking that even emperors could not come out. At this time, the crying sound suddenly disappeared, but it was followed by a kind of sacrificial sound. It was very grand and solemn. Listening carefully, it was like a war song. Cultivate my battle spear, kill the 9 heavens, slaughter the foreign races, return my mountains and rivers. Vaguely, Lu Ming seemed to have heard these words. They were filled with grief and emotions of facing death with equanimity. Roar. Vaguely, Lu Ming seemed to hear the sound of a dragon's roar, shaking heaven and earth. Lu Ming was shocked. What was in the ruins of God? Lu Ming was incomparably curious. This strange phenomenon lasted for an entire night. It was only when the sun rose the next day that the strange phenomenon disappeared. At this time, Lu Ming saw many people flying towards the east. Are they going to the ruins of God? Lu Ming was a little surprised. Yes, they are indeed going to the ruins of God. It is said that there will be a phenomenon in the ruins of God every year, but after a period of time, the ruins of God will be the safest. The ruins of God are divided into the outer area, the inner area, and the core area by the people of Southern God Palace. Usually, the outer area is not dangerous, but the inner area is full of danger. If you are not careful, even supremes will fall, and the core area, even emperors will not be able to come out, but after a period of time, the inner area will become much safer. As long as your luck is not too bad, you will not be in great danger. You can go in to look for treasures and ancient mines of the ruins of God. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.